Hello and welcome to Newsbreak Chats. Ako po si Chai Hofilenya, ang editor ng Newsbreak. Ito ang investigative section ng Rappler. Katapusan na naman ng buwan, kaya pwede nang balikan ang mga malalaking issue na pumutok nitong nakaraan. Pwedeng balikan para mas higit nating maintindihan. Dalawa ang napili naming topics para sa araw na ito. Gusto nating himayin para mas lalo nating maunawaan. Ang unang topic ay ang plebiscito tungkol sa Bangsamoro at ito yung Bangsamoro Organic Law or yung BARMM at saka yung BARMM. At ang ikalawa naman ay ang pagbaba ng age of criminal responsibility para sa mga bata. To share their thoughts and insights and expertise on these topics, meron tayong mga inanyayahan ngayong araw na ito. Sa aking kanan ay si Mara Cepeda. Siya ang nagko-cover ng House of Representatives or ng Congress. Sa kanan naman ni Mara ay si Pia Ranada at across Pia is Sofia Tomacruz. Silang dalawa ang nag-cover naman, pumunta sila sa Cotabato para mag-ulat tungkol sa plebiscito. At to my left is Glenda Gloria, ang managing editor ng Rappler. Siya rin ang military expert, pati na ang Bangsamoro expert. Welcome ladies, nagkataon lang na ngayong hapon na ito ay panay babae ang nasa panel natin. Nagkataon lang. Sige, simulan siguro natin kay Mara. Mara, you've been covering the House. Nagulat ka ba nung biglang merong lumabas na bill about yung lowering the age of criminal liability ng mga bata?
It was surprising because this is actually one of the priority bills of President Rodrigo Duterte. So, lowering the minimum age of criminal responsibility to 9 years old, the original version of the bill, was actually House Bill number 2. So, ang mga co-authors noon ay si ousted Speaker Pandalian Alvarez, Rodolfo Fariñas, and other top leaders of the House. Pero mas inuna kasi nila yung arguments at the time on the death penalty. And when they saw that there is strong resistance, naipasa sa House, pero sa Senate, it was dead in the water. Binitiwan na nila yung lowering the minimum age of criminal responsibility.
Kasi naka-focus sa death penalty.
And siguro, and there were a lot of human rights groups, children's rights groups at the time saying you are essentially jailing children. Our youth detention facilities right now, yung mga bahay pag-asa, hindi nga natin yung naayos. Tapos, mabababain mo pa, madadagdagan pa yung mga batang pwedeng maikulong. Hindi nila ginawa. And then, of course, we all know about the coup, and now that Speaker Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo is seated at the House, inuna niya yung mga ibang priority bills ni President. Because President Duterte wasn't lobbying for lowering MACR, and that's why maybe it was surprising. Because even last year, there was no mention in the House about it until session reopened. And then, nakalagay na lang sa committee schedule, which they release every end of the week for the upcoming week, ay i-approve na yung substitute bill for it. So it means the lawmakers, they met on their own muna before holding the public hearing.
Who was the champion of this bill?
Well, for this round, it would be the Committee on Justice Chairperson, Salvador Leachon. It is expected of him. Pero, kaya kasi ito nabuhay sa House uli. It's because the Speaker really wants to uphold to yung kanyang gustong maging reputation na lahat ng priority bills ng Pangulo, not just sa SONA, pero pati sa campaign, ipapasa niya. So, the way I view it, pwede rin kasing maging leverage to ni Speaker eventually na, look, I passed every single thing you want to pass. So, but we're still, syempre binabantayan pa rin natin, but mukhang dun kasi nangyari, and there were a lot of lawmakers who were against it. And of course, they weren't, even the kahit yung mga administration ally, they were not really supporting the bill at the start, but they weren't so vocal about it. Ang ginawa to convince them was dinaan sa party leaders. So Leachon met with the different party leaders. So this is NPC, NUP, PDP Laban, and then yung mga party leaders na yung nakipag-usap. Parang ang naging way nga dyan, parang horse trading eh. I-propose yung sobrang baba para
Magbabargain, magne-negotiate.
Para parang, okay, kung I'm 9, 12 ba, pwede, medyo mataas ng onte. Parang ganun yung nangyari. Ayaw nyo ng 9, o sige, hanap tayo ng compromise. 12, pwede ba? Parang ganun yung naging usapan ng mga party leaders. And the party leaders were able to convince their
For
party.
those who were opposed to this bill, ano yung strongest arguments that they presented?
Their strongest argument is essentially the bill makes it okay for the law to jail children. They're pointing out that the youth care the youth care facilities that we have to rehabilitate children in conflict with the law, they're in squalid, poor conditions. In other places, because they don't even have the bahay pag-asa, sometimes these children end up in actual jails. And when you're young, when bata ka, hindi naman, ay ba, makalaro ko, hindi naman nila maintindihan na, ay, ano lang, rehab center yan para sa mga bata. Ang tingin nila, kulungan yan. And it puts these young children in a place where may stigma sa kanila.
Correct.
Right? And the lawmakers, the opposition lawmakers, not just opposition talaga, but even there were administration-allied lawmakers who, there are 34 of them, so medyo madami yun, kasi may mga kasamang administration-allied. They're arguing that meron tayong batas ngayon na nagsiset up na itong mga youth care facilities, bahay pag-asa. Bakit hindi muna natin siguraduhin na mas maayos, pagandahin natin, siguraduhin na okay yung mga social welfare officers doon. Ang counter ni Kong Leachon ay, well, that's why we want to pass this law because it ensures that there will be funding for this youth care
Tatalon lang
facilities.
ako kay Sofia because you mentioned the bahay
Pag-asa.
pag-asa centers. And Sofia used to cover, or still covering, the SWD, no? So I'm very sure you're quite familiar with the situation in these centers. Kaya ba i-absorb ng bahay pag-asa the additional the children who will be tagged as criminals in effect,
Well,
if ever?
As it is now, with the state of the Bahay Pag-asas, there are only 63 out of the around 140 that need to be already up by now. And even those 63, only 58, around 58 are fully functional. And even then, not all are properly staffed, have the proper programs in place to actually rehabilitate these children properly. In that sense, that's also where a lot of experts argue that when you lower it to 12 or 9, you're essentially exposing more children to the vulnerabilities. To the gaps already in the system. So, in essence, no, they're not ready to absorb more children, which is why the Juvenile Justice Welfare Council, who is responsible for implementing the law, will even admit themselves that a lot of the times children end up in detention centers, because one, the Bahay Pag-asas don't have the capacity to absorb all of these children, and two, a lot of the time, another reason why they end up in detention centers is because their cases are pending for too long in courts.
I remember one of the arguments, di ba, yung sinasabi nila, those who are for the bill, those who've been pushing for the bill, sabi nila, mabuti nang kunin mo yung mga bata and put them in rather than let them stay in the streets where they will be vulnerable to use by syndicates and all that, ilagay mo na sila sa rehab centers. Kahit na hindi ganon ka-ideal siguro yung situation, at least they would be safer than exposing them to syndicates. Ano yung palagay niyo doon? Sure, of course. Oo.
Kasi hindi yun very realistic. Kasi realistically, pag ang pulis, ang humuhuli sa bata, pulis. Ang pulis, hindi naman niya sasabihin sa bata, o sige, huhulihin kita, 12 years old ka, dadalhin kita sa bahay pag-asa. Hindi ganon. Kukunin ni pulis, lalagay niya sa center niya, sa police station. And sometimes, sa totoo lang, sa police station lang yung bata. May budget ba ang police station para pakainin yung bata? Hindi. So, hindi siya yung tipong, in an ideal world, ganun yung nangyayari. Pero sa pang-araw-araw na ginagawa ng police, lalo na sa isang environment na may drug war ka, meron kang war against crime and all, hindi ganun yung pangyayari. So, yung bahay pag-asa, parang ano nga yun eh, kumbaga, remote possibility pa nga yun eh. Buti kung umabot siya sa bahay pag-asa. Pagwawalisin niya yung 12-year-old. pagtitimplahin nila ng kape, gagawin nilang errand boy. Eventually, pwede rin nilang gawing runner yan for their other illegal activities sa police. So, ang exposure ng bata, hindi lang sa detention, pero yung harsh reality mo, na ang police mismo, may expose ka din sa
Ano
illegal
ba ang
activities.
effect? Ano ang psychological effect sa bata? Yun na nga, parang fear di ba? Pag dinampot ka ng police, matatakot ka. And then, kahit na isang gabi, 2 gabi ka lang sa police station, ang kasama mo, adults na well, hindi mo alam kung gumamit ng droga or nagnakaw or whatever. What do the studies say? Ano ba yung those who are against it? Meron ba silang pinresent na arguments na di nyo dapat gawin yan kasi yung harm, yung effect on the kids can be irreversible? Meron bang ganon?
There would be studies that show that when you're 9 or when you're 12, your brain is not fully formed yet, fully developed. And therefore, in the sense of yung reasoning, yung capacity mo to make sense of things, which I think was the main argument of the proponents or the antis, diba? Parang kumbaga yung child development psychologists are saying na hindi pa siya, kaya nga kailangan ng guidance ng magulang. So, diba?
Yeah, and what I noticed a lot was when these arguments are presented, let's say like children don't have the capacity to discern from right or wrong. A lot of the times, lawmakers only take one part of the argument, saying, but they do know what right and wrong is. And then experts say, yes, they do know what right and wrong is, but you don't understand that there's still a second part to that, knowing what's right and wrong, and then contemplating the consequences of that. So what I notice a lot is they always take just one part of the argument, saying, okay, but they can discern right and wrong. They can know right and wrong, and so they should be held accountable. And then experts saying, yeah, but you're not getting the whole picture. They do know right and wrong, but they don't understand the consequences. And if you put them in a place where their brains aren't fully formed yet, that's the whole point. Their brains aren't fully formed yet, and so you're exposing them to all these other negative, possibly negative, irreversible effects when they shouldn't have been even exposed to it in the first place.
I remember there was a story by si Camille, nawala lang si Camille dito. She wrote about Bahay Pag-asa, and yung ibang kids doon, dahil napaka inadequate ng facilities, they end up escaping and leaving. So parang hindi rin talaga sapat. Let's just jump a bit to the plebiscite, no? I know medyo disconnect, pero let's see. This will all come together. Pia, you visited Cotabato City with Sofia. What did you see? You were there days before the actual plebiscite, right?
Yeah, we were there 2 days before, and it was at boiling point. As in, pagka-land lang namin after going through the checkpoints, the first thing you will see is a wall where there are so many posters, and they're all of them have different messages. Like one is saying pro BOL, pro BARMM inclusion, the other one is anti. So that's what greets you when you enter. And then when you're there in the city, there are caravans with men in green shouting in their megaphones that people should vote yes for BOL. And then the other side naman, you hear talk in the sari-sari store that, ito na naman sila, going around again, tas ang ingay na naman nila, tas sino ba mga yan galing sa labas. So, there's a lot of emotions with this plebiscite. I mean, it sounds very technical for people in Manila, but for people in Cotabato, it really spells a difference between the future of their city, what will happen to them, and economic growth. And it's very actually things that are gut issues for them there. So, peace and order, what it means to be Cotabateño, their identity even. So, it was really a very tense time, and you could see it all around.
It's not so easy to parang connect, no? Kung kunyari, nandito ka sa big city, nandito ka sa Maynila, tapos ito yung issue na people are talking about in Mindanao. Parang ang hirap makirelate, makapag-relate. Pero how do you draw that connection? What will make Filipinos in Metro Manila and the bigger cities na hindi Mindanao care about BOL and BARMM?
Well, for me, being someone who's from Manila, is really the peace and order. We always hear about the violence, the bombings, and it means something when we can look forward to a future where that won't be the headline as much, and that we can expect people who are friends who live in Muslim Mindanao to not have to deal with these kinds of realities. And even on a shallow, for me personally, on a shallow level, it means that I can one day visit Sulu, go to the beach there, like go diving there, see the mosques for myself without having to coordinate like a security entourage, diba? So there are many ways I think that we can connect it to people here. I mean, it's just being able to access that beautiful part of our country, making it feel like the entire country, not just Visayas or some parts of Mindanao and Luzon, are ours to enjoy and to understand and to appreciate. That for me is already the link. The fact that we can go there and appreciate that culture without worrying about violence.
I mean, yeah,
Sophia.
admittedly, P and I were talking before, it was difficult to get the interest up. But then on a personal level, I think what really relates, what can relate the plebiscite to the broader audience in Manila and everything was more also just caring about what happens to your fellow countrymen down south. And when you read about the whole history of things and everything, like it's really been a decades-long struggle. It's nice, more than it being nice. It's important to see what happens to people when they're finally given the chance to choose for themselves. Exactly that, like what happens to their city, what happens to their future, because what happens to their lives if finally they'll be able to experience peace, progress, more jobs, better schooling, access to hospitals, and because that really spells the difference between that spells the difference in their
Was
lives.
there anyone that you were able to speak to while you were there? Parang, kasi matagal na eh. We've always been hearing all these words, peace, progress, improvement of the quality of life. Pero napaka-theoretical niya, napaka-remote. But were you able to speak to someone na talagang naramdaman nyo yung this means so much to them and ito yung magiging impact sa kanila, and therefore we understand why it's so important?
I spoke to a 62-year-old MILF combatant, and he's 62, but he still, has a rifle, an M16. And he was saying how it means a lot to him because he saw his uncle get killed, because he was a combatant during the time when si ERAP, Joseph Estrada, waged an all-out war on the MILF. And at the time, because he joined Marcos era, they felt that the MILF's cause, or then the MNLF's cause, was a righteous cause because they felt that the Marcos administration was really cracking down on them and killing so many of their families and their friends. And then also fast forward to the Arab time when there was an all-out war. So they felt that finally they were heard, and that peace talk, the negotiations with the government have borne fruit in this agreement. And so he really feels that, because he said he had to quit grade school. He didn't finish schooling. So he was saying that he's hopeful that the new government, the BARMM, the new government under MI or future leaders, will pour more funds, will have more funds to provide accessible education for his grandchildren. So there's that gut issue that he feels this might correct the wrongs done to him, and the future generations will benefit. Maybe he himself will no longer be able to benefit as much, but at least his grandchildren will.
Okay. Glance, you've written about ARM, and then now we have BARMM. How different will BARMM be? Magiging radically different ba to? Kasi, or magpapalit lang ng pinuno?
Actually, mas optimistic ako dito sa BARMM.
Bakit?
Kasi yung ARM, nung 20 years ago, nung si Normie Suarez, yun nung nakipag-sign ng peace agreement with the Ramos administration, at that point, the MNLF had little bargaining leverage with the government. And they were not as persistent as the MILF. Kung meron kang masasabi sa MI, they're very persistent, tenacious, handa silang makipagnegosasyon ng ilang taon. Wala silang pakundangan dun sa long years of negotiation, because after all, to them, I guess, is that they've waged war anyway for the longest time. The MNLF at that point under Ramos was very impatient. Nur Miswari wanted to be governor in an instant. And so, rather than push for a law, which we now have, they insisted on controlling ARM. Kasi existing na yung ARM. So, ang malaking difference ngayon is, hindi naman, yung batas na nag-create ng ARM, hindi naman batas ng MNLF yun. Batas na na-craft as a result of the post-Marcos dictatorship period of the Constitution. It was crafted by majority Christian lawmakers. The MNLF had no stake in the law that created ARM, but they benefited from it, so that then when they signed the peace agreement, there was the structure. So the challenge for them then was just to manage it. But ARM was implicitly a powerless regional government. I mean, yun yung difference ngayon. The MI made sure, of course, may mga compromises, may back and forth, may mga hindi rin nakuha ang MILF dito sa bagong batas na to. But at least, alam nila tong batas na to kasi they helped craft it, which is very important. So, doon ako mas optimistic na dahil alam nila yung batas, alam nila yung naging compromises, na negotiate nila, alam din nila kung saan sila lulugar. So they know the limitations of the law. And hopefully, and of course, it's a more powerful law now because precisely they're gonna lead it, they're gonna lead the transition government. So maproseso siya. Hindi siya binigay lang. Siya ay pinagpaguran. Yun ang pagkakaiba.
How would you differentiate in terms of leadership styles? No? Si Nur Miswari at saka si Murad.
Oh, very
Did you get
different.
the chance to
Well,
speak?
I had the chance to
Glenda was the only one who had the chance to talk to Nur.
Noor was and is a celebrity. He's an icon. He was an icon of the rebel movement, and therefore that came with it both advantages and disadvantages. So ang feeling niya, ano siya? Sorry, Noor, diva talaga siya. So when he became governor, na-realize niya hindi pala niya gusto maging governor. Kasi he didn't have the patience. You have to remember, mahirap maging rebelde and then bigla kang governor, di ba? So he got bored with the day-to-day, with having to attend meetings. So he often
So wala
traveled.
siyang pasensya for these things.
Walang ganon. Wala siyang pasensya sa governance, sa requirements ng governance. Si Murad will still be tested. Of course, he has not governed, right? But I think the fact that the peace process with the Aquino government lasted 6 years, and there were difficult moments, pero tuloy sila. Nag-unravel din na magaling ang MI makipag-negotiate with government.
Did you see that?
Comfortable sila sa back and forth. They know the bureaucracy, di ba? Parang ganon. Hindi sila yung, what do you think, Pia?
Pia, anong, what
When I
did you
was speaking
observe?
to Murad, parang I see that he's, ano siya like, because he used to be the head of the BIAF, right? The armed
Yes.
forces of the MILF. But parang when you talk to him, he really does sound already like someone who know, like a leader, like someone who's been used to organizing, keeping his organization intact for so long. Because even if the MI, they started as a rebel group, for the past years, they've also been, they haven't really been fighting, taking up arms. I mean, they've been more busy with negotiating. And then, Murad is also quite forward-thinking. Like, we were asking him, so how do you ensure that the MILF are ready to govern, are ready for the challenges of bureaucracy? And he was saying that 3 years ago, they already started sending young MILF members to abroad to study. So, he has that, he's more forward-thinking, he's more patient. He knows that this is a long game and he has to plan it ahead. I think that's where his being a military, a commander of, an armed group came into play, that you have to be strategic, a tactician. So, he said that he's exhausted all means to prepare himself now for the role of chief minister. So, he takes it seriously. I think he knows that it's going to be a difficult job, but, it's something he's willing to put on his shoulders.
And
Yeah,
just
go
to
ahead.
jump in on that, it's also interesting for me. Well, it's also worth mentioning that they are aware of their limitations, saying, yeah, we know that the challenge is to really prove that we can govern after years of fighting, that it's different from governing over people. And the fact that they do have plans and they have set priorities in place for when they take over, which they know very concretely, like education, health, social welfare, Marawi's rehabilitation. So the fact that they've already planned for that down to some details is interesting to
Pero
know.
how much of a factor is this? They're old. They're tired of fighting. It's nice to have enjoy your old age, your mga apo mo and your kids and all that. Meron bang ganong factor na we're old, we want to rest?
I didn't get that.
I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Just to jump in also, in Congress, I was able to witness yung bicameral conference committee meetings on the Bangsamoro Organic Law, and lawmakers nagpuyat para dyan. Maybe
Yes.
like a couple of days, araw-araw na hanggang midnight, minsan hanggang 2 a.m. di pa sila tapos. And what I appreciated as an outsider, someone from Manila, is there were always top MILF officials na nagbabantay dun sa negotiation sa loob, and the lawmakers were consulting them. And do I feel like they're jaded already? I don't think so. Meron kasi kami ginawang long form about
Yeah.
ano yung magiging challenge now that naipasa sa yung bicameral conference committee. And this is before pa the plebiscite.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they're wise. Yung years nila sa pagiging rebelde and eventually transitioning to the negotiating table, nagkaroon sila ng perspective. They've seen how lawmakers think, they understand how rebels think, and and I think nakita natin yun kung paano nag-compromise yung mga lawmakers kasi they saw how, for example, sina Iqbal, they were unhappy with this particular provision, and pinaintindi nila, for example, why the issue of jurisdiction over Lanao Lake, for example, was something that issue namin yan kasi wala kaming makain, and these are things that lawmakers from Metro Manila wouldn't be able to understand, and they were able to explain it because they have experienced it. And I think because they are wise na, para naintindihan nila na there are younger MILF members na at that time they weren't supportive of the BOL, and naintindihan daw nila yun, tapos siguro kinakausap nila at the time. So I don't know, I didn't sense na pagod na sila. If anything, I think my impression is they are aware that the ARMM is a failed experiment, and maybe that's why they look forward to the BOL.
Craft something that's
Kasi-
new and better.
Yes.
The plebiscite had some surprises, di ba? Cotabato was not quite expected, yung results. Why is that? How did Cotabato happen?
Well, for one, it wasn't expected because up until the last day, its own mayor, its leader, Mayor Cynthia, was very vocal against the BOL, and so people were really saying it's up in the win is up in the air because experts and watchers were saying, if the turnout is high, then it would probably sway the city to a no. But then, when we were on the ground, we saw a lot of groups mobilizing to make that yes happen, which Pia really knows about too.
So I would say that both sides were very aggressive in campaigning for their stance. But I guess what gave more weight to the fact that engineering LGU is because a lot of the barangay captains, they're the ones that the people will see when they go around in their communities. So they are able to control the narrative in their barangays, and we were able to go down to those barangays, and there were real fears that they didn't want to talk to us. Like the villages where the no vote was strong, lahat doon ayaw magsalita. It was so hard to get someone on camera because they were saying, ay, hindi, sino ba kayo? Or parang, baka may mangyari, ganyan. So, but if you go to the villages that were for the yes, talagang they're all so game for the camera, they're all very gung-ho. So, you could see that the two
So
forces
you
were really
sensed it
working.
already that Cotabato was going
it was
to
really
vote.
very polarized, a very
Yes.
polarized city at that time. But I think that the yes managed to pull off a win because they were very good at organizing on the ground, and also they had the narrative with them. I felt there was so much optimism, so much confidence, and positive thinking, and I guess they were able to convince a lot of people. You might as well, put your hopes on this because we really believe in it. And I think that narrative won out over the narrative of fear, uncertainty that this might bring down our economy, meaning the city's economy, and also a large part to do with the fact that the city is more than 70% Muslim. So of course they had that city used to be part of Muslim Mindanao, like traditionally before colonial times. So there was also that narrative that we're trying to reclaim lost territory, and trying to decide for our own where our development will go, and you have to be part of that because you're mostly Muslim there anyway.
The opposite happened in Isabela.
Yes.
Factor dun yung church.
Yeah.
Catholic?
What we saw was, unlike in Cotabato where the church also helped rally for a yes, it was quite opposite in Isabela. Because the switch, the majority of the population there was Catholic, is Catholic. And then at the same time, the awareness, I guess, on the BUL and its provisions, how much that would change their lives wasn't as high, let's say, as it was in Cotabato.
Do you get the sense that dapat BARMM should really succeed? Kasi kung failure na ang ARM, tapos BARMM does not also meet expectations, then the repercussions would be great.
The MILF has no choice but to succeed. Because, you have to understand that the young, not a lot, but many young Muslims are also attracted to the extremist ideology. Diba? So if you look at Marawi, for example, a portion of the Muslim youth in Marawi really joined the siege, the attack, because they are inspired by ISIS and its satellites there. So there's that. And the MILF is aware of that precisely because the agitation is such that, why support the MILF? Why support the peace process? The regional government has always been a failed experiment as far as some Muslim youth are concerned, and therefore they'll become like traditional politicians. Look at Normie Suari. So, walang track record of good performance. So, kumbaga, yun ang sinasabi nila. So, the MILF and BARMM, for all its intents and purposes, has to succeed so that then it remains an alternative, or maybe it remains the mainstream, and for the alternative of extremism to not really grow. As we see it now, it's there.
Ano ba ang dynamics ngayon ng MILF at MN?
Well, openly, MNLF through its support, openly, but you have to understand that MILF kasi Central Mindanao talaga eh. So, my simplistic explanation for the Isabela City vote is the MI is a stranger to Basilan. Basilan is really largely an MNLF before it became an Abu Sayyaf stronghold. And there are spurts of MILF communities there, but that was MNLF country. So, karamihan ng mga MNLF leaders, in fact, the former governor before, whose name escapes me now, before Akbar, Salapudin was an MNLF leader. So, hindi area ng MI yun. So, yun yung dynamic. So that Sulu is not an MILF area. That's why the no vote there was resounding. Because not only because it is an MNLF/Abu Sayyaf area, Sakurtan, of course, is a warlord and a powerful political figure in Sulu. So yun yung magiging complication, palagay ko, dito sa New Bangsamoro region. How then Sulu is being forced to be part of that region, despite the fact that it said no. So how do you manage Sulu? And of course, what happened last Sunday, that exactly symbolizes the challenges that the MILF faces.
I was just gonna ask precisely, ano yung nakikita nyong impact or effect? Kasi that was the first bombing happened in the cathedral, and then merong sumunod, and then merong may fear na baka meron sa Davao, etc., etc. So parang domino effect siya. Do you get the sense that these could be attempts to derail the peace process and BARMM in effect?
There have been attempts din naman before. Especially nung bago pirmahan yung agreement with Norm Miswari. Ganyan din. May bombings din. And then, shortly before, Gloria signed a peace deal with the MILF. Ganyan din. It's a vicious cycle in Mindanao. I think the main difference right now is precisely ISIS. The role of ISIS in recruiting young radicals into the organization. Yun yung pinaka-biggest challenge. Otherwise, talagang ganun yung dynamic ng Muslim Mindanao na kung may agreement na ganyan, it's environment, there's a climate of fear, pero people go through that. People in a way are used to it and they'll survive
Sadly.
this. Sadly, they'll survive this. I think the MI knows that hindi yan papatinag. I mean, they're not gonna be intimidated by a bombing, however unfortunate that is. They know that they have a goal, and the goal really is precisely to stop the recruitment of the young radicals.
Are you optimistic given the prospects of BARMM? And di ba meron pang, there's another plebiscite that will be held in February. What do you foresee happening there?
Well, I think the significance of the Feb 6 vote is really to, when we were discussing with you, is really to add more territory to BARMM so that it will be bigger than ARM. It rallies more support for the BOL in the sense that if these territories manage to be part of BARMM, because they voted to be in ARM before, but then their mother units voted against it. So it's also symbolic if they actually get to be a part of BARMM now, because one, it will be bigger, more powerful, more Muslims will be able to participate in BARMM. MIA has they have a bigger territory. And that's also the significance of it. But they do have that big challenge of having their mother units also allow for their inclusion, because I mean, if we're going by history, that's a big challenge to overcome. And they're, at least in Anado Norte, the ruling clans there, the Dimaporos, aren't willing to give up an inch of their territory.
So are you optimistic for the future?
I think, yeah, there's definitely reason to be optimistic. When we spoke to Murad and we were asking him how does BARMM now deal with the extremist threat, with ISIS, he was saying that now that there's an agreement and there's a BARMM, the usual reason for extremists to join that cause is gone, because they were saying there's no hope in the peace process. When the BARMM is the very essence of supposedly like the fruit of the peace process. And he was also saying that they're going to try to get the loyalty of the grassroots by devoting, they were saying their 4 priorities will be education, health services, social services, and infrastructure. So by doing that, they're trying to erase that, poverty, trying to solve that poverty, which often leads to joining those groups, because it also becomes a money-making scheme for some of the members about the ransom, the hostage-taking. So they're trying to wean them off of reasons to join those extremist groups. And it's just good that, already they are thinking that that's a priority, that it should be a priority to get rid of those groups and to make them less attractive.
Okay, so I guess both of you will continue monitoring this, and you'll also cover the February plebiscite.
We'll be there.
Okay. Mara, just a last question siguro. Given developments in the Senate, there were 11 senators yata who signed, no? Who
We're
said,
back to the lowering.
yes,
minimum
sorry.
wage.
This is, given that, do you foresee resistance in the Senate, or ano na to, tuloy-tuloy na to? And this will be signed into law.
The thing is, when you have the leader of the chamber supporting the bill and a good number, kasi kung 11, how many senators do we have? 23? 23? That's almost the majority. It's gonna be so easy to pass that already. And it's sad to say, but I feel like if it won't become a law by February 6, then at least the Senate will pass it by February 6, which is when the 17th Congress will adjourn session. And if the President calls for it and he calls for a special session, gagawin naman yun ni Arroyo at ni Soto. I mean, we're not gonna be surprised about that. And the fact that, yun na nga mukhang matutuloy kasi binuhay nila uli bubuhayin ba nila yan if they don't have the numbers? As you always see in Congress, it's always a numbers game. The majority always wins. And kung as of yesterday, meron nang nakasign na House Committee report, napakadali na lang yung kumuha ng enough numbers for the plenary vote sa Senate.
Okay, so these are developing stories, these are developing events in the month of February, which we will continue to monitor and watch very closely. I guess, any final words, siguro, Glenda?
Well, to connect the minimum age of criminal liability to the Bangsa, I think that what's at stake here is the future of the Moro youth, diba?
Yes.
So that then under a very peaceful environment, a peaceful Mindanao, then you don't have to have kids who are orphaned by their who are orphaned or who are dislocated, who suddenly have to leave home because then may gera doon. So it's also maybe a part of it jaded ang MI na to enter into this agreement. Pagod nga sila, tama yun. Pero I think this is for the future generation and it's really a huge responsibility on the part of the organization. Okay,
So despite challenges and perceived problems, we are quite optimistic. We have no choice, I guess. We want to be hopeful. So we will continue to monitor these stories and these events, and probably in February go back and balikan natin kung anong nangyari dito sa mga issues na to. Maraming salamat sa panonood ng Newsbreak Chats. Hanggang sa February muli.